Welcome to StarCraft 2 Battle Report.
My name's Dustin Browder. I'm the lead designer on StarCraft 2.
And I'm Robert Simpson, an esports team member.
We've got a great game for you here today. We've got two of our players at the studio, Yan-Ho Lee playing as the Zerg and David Kim playing as the Protoss. They'll be playing on Scrapyard. This is a new map we have for StarCraft 2 that's got a lot of really interesting features on it. And we can see here, we've got Yan-Ho as the blue Zerg in the upper left part of the map. And as we move across the map, we'll see both of these players are actually very close to one another, right across this narrow gap of space. And here we come up on David Kim playing as the white Protoss.
There's a lot of interesting terrain features on Scrapyard, the first of which is going to be this rather large front ramp that leads into your base. It's a lot harder to block than the rest of the maps that we've seen in any of the battle reports.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot more challenging for the Protoss player on this map to block that ramp and defend themselves from any early aggressive Zerg moves. Coming down to this part of the map, we can see there's a natural expansion. This is a place both players are likely to try to look to lay down some additional buildings and start collecting some additional resources. And right up here in the middle, there's a small group of vents putting up some smoke. Units can't see past that smoke, so it's a great place to hide your units.
Now the map continues to lead down into another expansion as well as a very important point of interest in the center of the map. This is a Xel'Naga watchtower. When a ground unit gets by one of these, it illuminates a large area of vision around it, and surrounding that Xel'Naga watchtower is also those vents that block line of sight.
Yeah, so you can see, just move past the watchtower, and very briefly there while you activate it, you saw exactly how much vision that thing revealed. It's a very critical strategic resource for both players to try to control. Control of that watchtower can be the key to victory on this map. And you can see David Kim's got his first probe moving very aggressively across the map and right into the Zerg base.
Oh, and it looks like David Kim just barely caught sight of Yan-Ho Lee moving his drone out of his base, looking like he's going for a natural expansion currently. He is saving up those resources, as you can see in the overlay in the top left corner of the screen, and David Kim blocks it right as he gets up to that 300 mineral marker. We can see Yan-Ho Lee sending out another drone trying to scare off David Kim's probe, but David Kim is resilient in his harassment.
Just keeping dancing that probe around. He's blocked the building. The Zerg player's trying to place another hatchery there. He really needs to get another hatchery down so he can start resourcing from that location. Instead, the Protoss player has blocked the expansion, has prevented him from putting that building into play, and you can see the Zerg player has just given up on it. He's returned to his base to continue harvesting, and the probe is just loose, running around the Zerg base, seeing whatever it wants to see, totally scouting the Zerg, even counterattacking there, looking to sort of harass this Zerg player and just keep the pressure up at this very, very early part of the game.
David Kim's doing a great job with that probe right now. For every time that he pulls off just a few of those drones off of Yan-Ho Lee's minerals, it really puts Yan-Ho behind for a good portion of the game.
Absolutely. Just harassing his economy is very important in the early part of the map. Now you can see there is a way for these players to approach each other. It's a lot closer than going around that Xel'Naga watchtower. There's the destructible rocks there across that narrow bridge, and players can move over. They can use their forces to destroy those rocks, and once the rocks are down, you can move freely back and forth across that bridge. It's a very, very powerful way to sort of surprise the enemy. They're expecting you to come from a different direction, and instead, you snap those rocks open and you push right through the middle, and we'll see if that's a factor in this game.
Now, David Kim's base, we can see him build a cybernetics core in addition to an assimilator, so we're very, very likely to see some early stalkers out on the field. Back over at Yan-Ho's base, David Kim is not giving up. He is getting the most money harassment possible out of this probe. And oh, we can see him actually chasing, looking like Yan-Ho is again going for the natural expansion. Will the probe make it in time?
No, the probe does not make it in time, and David Kim had managed to keep that expansion off the map for a huge amount of time, but the Zerg player finally does get it into position. And here you can see there's the Xel'Naga watchtower, and then the Zerg player, he doesn't control it with that overlord, but he can watch it, so he'll know if David Kim has control of the watchtower, and he'll know whether or not David can see him coming. And you can see the probe moves into position, and it's activated the watchtower. So the Protoss players really wants to make sure that he sees what's going on. You can see in the overlay there are now 6 Zerglings in production about to move out of the map, and 2 of them are already on the way. So the Zerg are beginning their aggressive move. The Zergling, a very fast unit, very aggressive, very dangerous, and here come the Zerg in small numbers starting to swarm across the map.
That overlord knows exactly where the probe is, so those Zerglings are going to be able to run right through those vents and start harassing that probe. Will the probe be able to make it back to his base? We have a couple more Zerglings chasing in behind him, but it looks like the probe moves just fast enough to barely escape those Zergling attacks.
He's just going to go away, and there's not a lot defending David Kim's base right now. The Protoss are looking a little weak. Here come a couple of nullifiers. This is a new unit to StarCraft 2. It's got a very powerful ability called a force field that it can use to block terrain. You can see the nullifiers are moving out, but they don't want to get trapped. They don't want to get surrounded, so they move back up the ramp. And you can see the Zerg are hiding in the vents, gathering their forces, sort of waiting to see. Here come some more Zerglings that look like from the south, moving up into those vents, and the Zerg are just lurking there, waiting for enough forces to move in. And here they go, moving into the Protoss base.
So I know that's 8 Zerglings trying to move up to the Protoss base, but those are 2 beautiful force fields set out by David Kim. He can now micro one of his nullifiers around while the other one continues to lay down cover fire. The Zerglings know they have no chance and start heading back into the base, but it's not looking like 2 Zerglings are going to pose a very large threat against those nullifiers and all the probes in the base.
Yeah, even the probes could turn and fight if they needed to, and you can see the Zerglings are trying to remain a threat, trying to harass, and they don't really get much out of it. They're quickly destroyed by the nullifiers, and the nullifiers are sort of free to move back to protect the front of the Protoss base. Meanwhile, the Zerg have gathered in the smoke, are trying to hide, and that's a Zealot and 3 nullifiers moving out to engage. It looks like the Zerg are going to have to run for it. They're not going to be able to hang out there and survive.
Ooh, it looks like David Kim might have just barely seen that one Zergling move around. Oh, and he was going for his natural expand as well, and that probe was able to see all of those Zerglings moving around. Now, the nullifiers see them, but they're very slow, so those Zerglings are going to be able to make it up into David Kim's base and harass.
And there goes some Zerglings, seeing what kind of damage they can do. Moving in, there's the warp in, bringing in some additional forces, another nullifier in play, and there's a force field trapping those Zerglings, preventing them from running away. The probes turn to counterattack, and they quickly destroy all of those Zerglings, and the Protoss are still perfectly safe right there in their base, despite that very clever and very fast harassment by the Zerg.
So generally you see force field used as more of a defensive measure, but in that case, David Kim actually used it to trap his enemy within his base to kill his forces.
Yeah, absolutely. Against a force like the Zerg that's so speedy and so quick, force field can be used both offensively and defensively. As we've seen time and time again in our early versions of this game, force field is just a very, very powerful weapon against the Zerg, especially when playing, against them when they're swarming. Any kind of map where there's a lot of open space, it's a very powerful weapon to control and channel the Zerg, and of course, it's also very powerful to prevent the Zerg from escaping should they try to do so. And you can see that Overlord getting a little bit harassed there by the nullifiers, but the nullifiers don't quite have the range, and the Overlord is going to escape.
Now, David Kim is massing his forces over by that Xel'Naga watchtower. He can now see that large area vision, which is very strong. He sees no units coming. He knows that he just killed a bunch of Yunho Lee's Zerglings, so it's time to take advantage of that window of opportunity.
So he's moving in now. He feels like he's got the advantage, and he wants to press. He knows the Zerg are down a few Zerglings, and he thinks he might have enough to do some damage here. Now, there is a Spine Crawler in play and a bunch of Roaches. This is kind of a problem for this Protoss force. They don't have really the power to deal with this. Great use of the force field there, trapping half of them. Wow, and there's the burrow, the counter by the Zerg, preventing him taking any real damage there as the nullifiers move into the Zerg base, trying to do some damage and get some damage out of this attack.
Oh, but there's too many Roaches. The nullifiers have to continue to move up into... Oh, wow, and they lock out all of Yunho's defenses except for just a Queen and 1 Roach are up there, but they have to burrow or else they're going to get focus fired down. So now the nullifiers, again, have free reign over Yunho's base.
What a great move, using that force field to block them out. He's really got inside. Look, all of the drones are underground. They're not able to resource. It's a really expensive attack, but still very... Oh, more force fields protecting his nullifiers from any attack, and the drones are still underground, not able to harvest even more with the force fields. And now it looks like the drones are getting very, very aggressive. They got to fight back. They got to get into position. The nullifiers are quickly overwhelmed by those drones, and of course by the Roaches, but still, what a great use of force field. What a great aggressive approach by the Protoss player, trying to get some damage in there into play and really sort of tear down that economy. You can see David Kim, of course, is still watching the rest of the map. There's another watchtower here in the southern part of the map which watches these high-yield resources. This is a very important thing for players to capture in the game. Get a lot of money from those yellow crystals, but you can see now the Zerg are on the move. David Kim may have miscalculated by that aggressive move. Here come the Roaches moving on the map. That's a significant force. Each one of those units, each one of those Zerg units regenerates very, very rapidly. And we've got some Stalkers here to counter them, but that's a very large Zerg force moving into play.
So as you can see, the Roaches very clearly outnumber all of these Stalkers, but we did see David Kim research the blink ability, and oh my god, there it is! He's moving it away, blinking just as his Stalkers get to the kill range from all of those Roaches. He only gets one of the Stalkers down. We still see a ton of blinks going on. He only lost 1 Stalker out of that enormous attack. We see the Roaches continue to move in to David Kim's base and try to pressure. We see another force field trapping all of the Roaches inside his natural expansion. David Kim is now able to micro around those Stalkers and continue to take out the Zerg threat.
Yeah, that was a great use of force field. It didn't look like it was that dangerous, but you can see even now it's preventing those forces from coming up very, very quickly. And you can see how badly damaged the Protoss are in this battle. The Roaches regenerating very, very quickly. The Stalkers not regenerating almost at all. Their shields regenerate, but not very quickly at all. And you can see the Protoss are slowly being worn down by this Roach advance. There's some more Warpins coming into play there. Some more Stalkers are coming to the defense, and the Protoss players just backing up, buying time, using Blink, and he's managed to just beat down that Zerg force. Oh, what a great use of Blink, continuing the pursuit.